Welcome to a new PowerPoint tutorial where you're going to learn how to use Microsoft AI solutions to create faster presentations. Now, this video is going to be especially important to people who use PowerPoint for business and those who want to maintain brand consistency with their presentation design. You're going to learn the difference between Copilot and the two types of designers that you can use, the AI designer in PowerPoint and the online designer that you can use to create custom images. You're also going to learn the pros and the cons of using the PowerPoint AI designer and some tips that can help you get better results. Are you ready? Let's get started. Now, before we get started, I wanted to point out that your experience with the Microsoft AI solutions will be different depending on the type of computer you have, the operating system, and as well as if you have a free or if you have a paid account. Because many of the new computers that are entering the market right now, more specifically the PCs, they already have Copilot embedded in them. So your entire experience with your computer will have Copilot. However, if you have any of the computers from before 2024, or if you're using a Mac or any other operating system, then you're going to have to go specifically to the websites dedicated by Microsoft, which is the Copilot website, or you're going to have to upgrade to access Copilot through your applications. So that's why your experience might be different. And your experience might also be different if you're using the app. So you'll notice there's the Copilot app that you can put on your phone. And it's going to work a lot like a web browser where you can ask questions. For example, if I go for free here on the any web browser, and you can go to the copilot.microsoft.com. Think of it like a search engine, but instead of just search, now you have search with AI capabilities and you have search with generative AI. Now, generative AI means that AI is creating content for you. So it's not just searching for you. So that's where the difference is, and you can access that for free. So you can go in here, and if you scroll through some of the features that are available to you, you're going to find that you can use it for brainstorming ideas. You can ask it to coach you. You can ask it to come up with recipes, with agendas. If you're creating an event, there's a lot of things that you can ask the AI to help you with, and it's going to come up with some good suggestions. Now, is it going to be final? Of course not. You're going to have to add your own input as well, because anyone can go to this website and do exactly the same thing. So if you want to add your value to your work and through to your audience as well, you need to put in some of your own research and some of your own stories, case studies, and some of the components that you're bringing to the table as well. However, if you go through in here, you're going to find that you can create images, you can create content, and you can create presentations outline. And you can do the same thing if you get the app on your phone as well. It's going to be more like an enhanced web platform that's going to be able, that you'll be able to interact with. However, if you're not signed in, you can see here, I'm not signed in, any interaction you have will be lost. So it's not going to be saved. Now, if you want to save these interactions with the browser and maintain them for future use so that you can access them and build on them, then you're going to have to sign in to your Microsoft account. Now, if you have Microsoft PowerPoint or Excel and you're paying the annual fee to get access to these features, you're going to have a different experience than if you're using an older version that you have not updated. So it's definitely, if you're using Microsoft for Business, then it's definitely worth getting at least the annual membership for the Microsoft products as well. You can still use Copilot for free, and you're going to find that you can do a lot with the free version. Something else that will impact your experience is what type of browser you're using. Now, if you're using the Edge on a window, you'll be able to access Copilot just by clicking on the Copilot button, and it's going to be available to you. If you're using any other browser, then you're going to have to go to the website that's specifically called copilot.microsoft.com. So you can see here how your experience will vary. And now, if you upgrade to the accounts, you'll be able to access Copilot in your in each of these applications, which is the Teams, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So that's the difference. Now, I have Copilot Pro, so I wanted to show you how that would appear to me in PowerPoint. Now, in PowerPoint, I have this extra button here. Let me just move it, and you see it's called Copilot. So if I click on it, I'm going to get features, AI features that are relevant more specifically to PowerPoint in this particular Copilot. And the same thing will be for Word if you do that for Word, or if you do that for Excel. However, this feature is only available if you have upgraded to the Pro account or the Enterprise account for Microsoft. Now, if you're wondering what's the difference between the two, the difference is that the Copilot Pro is more designed for individuals. So, for example, a person for myself, I'm not using Microsoft for Teams, and I'm not part of an enterprise company. However, if you're part of a company, education, government, or a big organization, then the components of how AI and Copilot will work on your computer will be dictated by your IT manager. So your IT manager in your organization will dictate where does Copilot gets its information so that it can interact with you. So that's why if you're wondering about how Copilot will work in your organization, you'll have to talk to your IT manager, and I'm very sure that they will probably be putting some restrictions on where that information will go. However, if you're a small business owner and you're using Copilot Pro for yourself, or you only have 1 or 2 people in your family or your teams that are using, then the Copilot Free and the Copilot Pro are going to be more than enough. And that's what I'll be covering in this video. Now, something else, if you're wondering if you should upgrade or not, what is the difference between the free and the pro? Well, as I showed you that with the pro, you can access Copilot more specifically in your application, which you cannot do that with the free account. And something else that will also be affected is when you're using the designer to generate images. So if you're using generative AI, which means that you're asking AI to create a custom image for you, with the free account, you can only create 15 images per day, whereas when you're on the pro account, it allows you to create up to 100. So now it depends on how do you plan to use it. If you plan to create a lot of images, custom images, using the AI, then it'll be worth upgrading. If not, the free account can do a lot of the work for you. You can still get this information, have them saved, downloaded. You can do a bit of copy and pasting, and you can get a lot of the work done. So now in the next segment in this video, I'm going to show you more specifically how we're going to use the image generation designer AI, because it's also called AI, and you can access it by using this menu here. For example, you can see here, create an image. However, if you use this feature, it's not going to be very intuitive unless you already know how to do prompting. You know what to ask AI to create for you. If you're not sure what exactly you want to create and you want a little bit more guidance, I recommend you go into your account, into the Microsoft account, and find the online designer. Now, very few people know that they already have access to this because very few people actually log in online to access their Microsoft account. So click here on the top left menu, and you're going to see different areas you can access the designer. You're going to see a button here that says designer. You're going to see Microsoft 360 where you can access it, or more apps. For example, if I click on the more apps, now I can see all the apps that I have access to as part of my Microsoft annual membership. So this is not Copilot. This is just the average Microsoft membership if you already have it. And you can see here I have access to Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneDrive. Now OneDrive is the cloud service where we can put some files. So I'm going to show you how this is going to be very important, especially if you're using the Copilot in your applications. As well, I have access to the designer here that I want. So this is the one that I'll be showing you. I'm going to click on it, and you're going to notice that in this designer, even though it's called designer, there's different features. It says create with AI, edit with AI, and design from scratch. So this is going to help me create custom images that I can now export and put into PowerPoint. And this is where some of the confusion can happen, because this is called Microsoft Designer, and a lot of people are aware of the designer that's inside PowerPoint that's been there for years. So this is not something new. This designer here is more specific about the presentation layout. So if you have a template and you're in a rush and you're not sure how you want to design your slide, this will give you some suggestions on how to enhance the slide based on your existing content. So now you know the difference, that with Copilot, it's more about strategy and content, and I'm going to show you what are the best features you can use. The designer is more about the slide layout, and if you want custom images, then we're going to have to go to the online platform called Microsoft Designer and create these images. So in this segment, I'm going to show you how you can use all of these features to create faster presentations. Now let's talk about how you can use Copilot for your presentation, strategy, and content. Because in any presentation project, there's 3 steps. You've got the strategy, which is your presentation outline, and the decision of how you format or what order you present this information. That's your presentation strategy. Then you have the content. What kind of content would you put on your slides? And then you have the design. How would you design the layout? And what kind of images you'll be using? Now, Copilot can only help you with the strategy and the content content. It's not necessarily a design tool. So we're going to be using Copilot to come up with this presentation title. So in this case, I'm going to show you how that experience will vary if you're logged in, if you're not logged in, and how it would appear if you're doing it directly in PowerPoint. So let's start with the experience when you're not logged in. So I'm going to go get a prompt and ask it to create a presentation for me. So I'm going to get this prompt that I already written here, and which is to create a 15 slide presentation about the Olympics in LA and more about how that's going to impact traffic for the city. So I'm going to click here, go ahead. And notice, even though I am not logged in, Copilot has already started creating an outline for me. Now, this is a starting point. I would definitely not recommend that you just take this and go with it, because you have to verify all this information. Now, the good news is that Copilot has already given me the sources where it got that information. So now I can dig deeper. I can go to these websites, verify this information. I can elaborate a little bit more on it, but at least I've got an outline as a starting point. Now, if you'll notice, because I'm not logged in, I don't have the chat feature here, and it does not recommend any additional questions. So if I start asking, now Copilot will delete what I've already worked on, and it's not going to build on it. The only option I have right now is to either copy the text or to download. Now, if I click on download and I choose text, it will download it to my download folder. But if I click Word, it's not going to work, because it's going to prompt me to log in. So this is why I recommend, if you're using the web browser and you're not too concerned about being anonymous, is that you have the same experience, but you log into your Copilot account. Now, your Copilot, you can go to the same website and you can ask to log in, and it's going to ask you to log in using the same login that you use for your Microsoft account. So whatever account that you're paying for through Microsoft to get access to PowerPoint and the Word, that's the email that you'll be using so that you can access the same features. So right now I am logged into my account, and you can see here, I can see the chat history and I can ask a question. So I'm going to repeat the same question here to show you what the experience would be like. So I'm going to delete this image. I'm not sure, sometimes it has that. And I am going to click here, and you'll notice that the experience is very similar. However, because I'm logged in, I have extra things that I can do, even if you are on the free account. So you can see here, it's giving me a suggested layout. It's suggesting some content, and in some cases, what I might use for images, and also the summary and conclusion. And once again, I do have some of these links that I can verify this information. Now, what's different is you can see here, I have that history, so I can always go review it and add on it. And you can see here that Copilot is suggesting even more questions, so I can build on this data and create a better outline. It says include details about the new rail line. So I didn't even know they're creating a new rail line. Add more statistics on expected traffic volume. So all of this is very important information that when you're logged in, you're going to have access to deeper questions that you can ask. Now, I'm not going to go and start elaborating on this presentation. I want to show you how you can take this content and turn it into a PowerPoint presentation. Now, because you're logged in, you're going to have the option to download it to Word. So if I click here on export, remember how when I was not signed in, I could not access it. Now, if I say download to Word, notice what is going to happen. Well, let's see. Hopefully it works. It's supposed to open Microsoft Word. Okay, it says it popped up. Is blocked. I probably have the blocker on. Let's just go with View. And you can see here it opened Microsoft Word in the cloud. So this is not my desktop. And this file is now saved rather than in my downloads folder. It's saved into my Microsoft Cloud account. So if you're on an enterprise, that could be in your SharePoint or wherever your IT manager, whatever file folder you have access to through your enterprise. In my case, it's going to my OneDrive on the cloud for Microsoft. So now I have two options here while I am in the cloud. If you have a free account and you're not paying to access Copilot and PowerPoint, you still have an option to export this to PowerPoint. And mainly that will depend on what type of computer you have and what type of operating system. Now, on some of the newer computers, you can do this directly from desktop, or Microsoft is adding it. But right now, the only option you have is if you're in the cloud and using the cloud service. So do test on your computer, because that's changing every day as new computers coming into the market. But when you're in the cloud and you have a Word document open in the cloud, you have the option to save file export. And when you click on export, you can see here you have that option to export it into PowerPoint. Now, I found sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Let's hope it works this time. So I'm going to click on it and I'm going to show you now how we can export this to PowerPoint. So let's just go with the theme that it is suggesting. There are more themes, but for now, let's just go for speed. And I'm going to pick this one and I'm going to say export. And let's see what it is it's going to do. Now notice while it's thinking, it says here your text will be included in the presentation. Support for images and tables is coming soon. So if your Word document had images or it had tables, as of the day of recording, this is not going to be transferred into your PowerPoint presentation. You're going to have to turn that in manually. So let's see what is going to happen. And then I'm going to show you how that experience will be if you do the same prompt. Okay, it says we're having difficulty, so it did not work. But ideally, it is supposed to work, and now convert it to PowerPoint. Now, before I continue, I wanted to let you know that I did test different browsers. I went to the Opera and I went to the Firefox browser and I tried the file export. It's not working today. However, in the past, it has worked. So it's probably not a browser issue. I think it's just probably today there's something wrong while I'm filming with the Microsoft website. But otherwise, it should work. You should have, if you have a Word document with just text and titles, when you click on the export to PowerPoint, that feature should work and it will open a PowerPoint presentation for you. Now, let me just show you how we can take that same prompt and use it in PowerPoint directly if you have the Pro account and Enterprise. So I'm going to open PowerPoint now, and you can choose whether you have your own theme or if you choose a blank theme. Now, if you start with your own theme, kind of like what I have right now, you can see I've got one of my Magnas media themes here, and I have the first slide, and I'm ready to use Copilot. So I'm going to click here on Copilot, and I'm going to ask it the same prompt to create the presentation. I'm going to show you how the experience will be different. So the same prompt exactly that I've used elsewhere, and I'm going to go ahead, send. And then after I do that, I'm going to show you what other prompts are available to you if you are using Copilot directly in PowerPoint. Now, of course, the experience will be much more specific to PowerPoint, and the same thing will be if you open Copilot in Word. You're going to have prompts that are related to Word. If you use it in Excel, what you'll see Copilot in Excel will be more specific to data analytics and creating formulas. So it's designed to help you with the content and the strategy based on the application you open. And that's the big difference between the Pro and the free account. So now let's see, you can see here it took my theme, which is great. It kept my font, it kept my colors, and now it added some presentation slides for me. So this is a much smoother experience than having a Word document that you have to convert. And if you'll notice, one more thing is that it went ahead and added suggested notes for me. So now I can use the prompts in PowerPoint using the Copilot and ask it to elaborate a little bit more. Now, if you're not sure what you can do with Copilot with Microsoft, especially because they're adding more features all the time, I recommend is you click on the view prompts, and rather than using the quick view or the shortcuts, click on view more prompts. Now, if you do that, you're going to see all the prompts that are available more specifically based on your operating system and also your PC or your Mac or whatever computer you're using, because some of these features might vary depending on what kind of computer you have. Now, if you take a closer look, you'll notice that apart from the add image, as of now, most of the prompts are really more about adding content, organizing your thoughts, adding an agenda, find specific information. So it seems to be more about the strategy and also summarization of the main points, especially if you have a longer file presentation. I've worked on presentations that have thousands of slides in there. So if you wanted to do a summary or create shortcuts or kind of find brainstorm ideas, then you can use some of these prompts. So do keep that in mind, that these will change depending on what kind of computer you have. And I also want to bring a caveat to the file here, create presentation from file. So you're going to find this prompt here, but if you try to click on it, it doesn't always work because that file location is the issue where Copilot has that security. Now, in my case, because I have the Pro account, if I say create presentation from file, let me just show you that so you can see how that experience will vary from you. So if I go in here and say, let's click on Copilot so you can see how that would work. Okay, view more prompts. And let's look for the create presentation from file. And I'm going to show you how, if you try to use that, you will feel it's not working, but actually there's a way for it to work. So if I say create presentation from file, notice it's not prompting me to open a window and select a file. So right now, because of my Pro account, it's only accessing files in the cloud. So I have to go get a link to the file, add it to PowerPoint, and then PowerPoint will know what to do with it. Now, if you remember, I created this Word document here from the Copilot in the cloud. So I'm going to go and click on the share. Because it is in the cloud, I can share it. So I'm going to click here and say copy link. And okay, I'm going to say allow. So now the link has been copied. Now I can go to PowerPoint and add that link here. Notice if I add the link, so you can see here it's linking to the OneDrive file. And now I can ask PowerPoint to create this file here for me. You can see it's an extra step, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention that depending on the setup and how your IT manager and what type of file you have access to, this experience will be different for you. So that's why I am showing you this demo here. So let's see what PowerPoint is going to come up with. Now you'll notice I did not specify a theme. So what PowerPoint is going to do, it's going to do its best to create a theme. It's going to pick its own fonts, it's going to pick its own colors, and now then it's going to be up to me to create something else. All right, so let's see here. You'll notice it did create 18 slides, even though I said 15, which is still great. At least we got a little bit more. We've got the slide design is fine. If I click on the theme, I can see it has kept the main themes from PowerPoint, but it might not match my brand. So this is where now I would say always specify the theme before you ask it to do anything for you. And you can see here it went ahead and it picked its own font. So it picked the Jill Sans for font. I did not ask for that. When it comes to the colors, it looks like it kept the default colors from Microsoft for now. In some cases, I found it changed the color. So now you can see how the experience can vary for you depending on if you start with a theme or not and how you ask it to create the presentation. But once again, you'll notice even though the Word document did not have any notes, PowerPoint took it upon itself and created some slides notes for me. It did some of the designs I did not ask. You can see in this case it's using smart art. So it's doing its best to get that foundation, and now it's really up to me to verify that data, verify the theme, verify the colors, and start cleaning out this presentation. And now if I want to elaborate on more of these points, I can brainstorm directly. I don't have to keep going to the web. I can go in here and use some of the other prompts. I can ask it add an image, then I can ask it to brainstorm mistakes to avoid. Is there anything I need to look out to? A missing ingredient, how can I make the presentation more interactive? So you can see here I'm asking more things about strategy as if you're having a presentation coach, and that's something that's only available if you have the Pro or if you have Enterprise account. Otherwise you can just go use Copilot directly in the web browser. So now that you know what is available, let's talk about design, because if you notice here, if I go to a slide and let's say here we don't have an image, so let's go in here and use the prompts. Let's say you want to use it for design, you're going to find it's not necessarily the best. All right, where it happened to the window. Okay, let me just use it manually. Add image of LA at night. Let's see what it is going to do to the slide. And more specifically, what I'm really concerned with is, will it change the slide format to accommodate an image placeholder? All right, there you can see here, it picked an image of LA at night, and it's using the double. So PowerPoint is really, the Copilot is a great foundation for your strategy and content. And now we can go in ahead and start jazzing it up. Now you have two options. If you have a theme, you can start with your presentation with a theme, and you're going to get a much better response. You can see here, if I already have a theme, I think I did start one here. Where was it? This one was the one with my current theme, so I don't have to spend a lot of time on the fonts and the colors. At least I know it has my theme colors, but I can work on the images and now select more images. I can use Designer here. Sometimes it can suggest things. I would recommend you avoid it, especially if you already have your own theme, because if you try any of these slides, it's going to mess up your presentation. It's not going to honor the theme that you have already. However, if you're using the presentation with a generic theme like this one, and you use the Designer, and you really don't care about how your presentation looks or if the font, you just want to get the content or an outline, this Designer can help you. So do test that out. Now, I want to give a caveat note, before you use this designer, if you only have one slide on your presentation, let me just show you, because this is important, is if you click here and you only have one slide, notice right now it's a blank theme. However, if you click on designer and you only have one slide, let's just pick this one, notice what's going to happen. Now PowerPoint went ahead and turned this presentation into a theme. So it might overwrite your theme. That's why I say avoid this, especially if you have your own theme, because if you do that, you could overwrite your theme. So make sure you have two slides, not one, because then that way your suggestions will be about the slide particularly, not related to your entire theme. So now you know how this can help you, but in many cases, it might ruin your presentation if you already have a theme. Now, what about images? So for example, if you want to add more images to your presentation, let's just go back to the one here that it's created. So we can go with some of the design images it's suggesting here, but if you wanted to have your own custom images, this is where we need to go now back to the designer. Now, I'm not sure why Microsoft is making it so disconnected. It's a very disconnected experience. As you can see, we've already went to Copilot online to get the strategy. Now we've got the designer, we've got the Copilot here. I have a feeling that maybe in the future, PowerPoint might have the generative AI directly in PowerPoint, but at the time of recording, it's not there. So if I want to create custom images, now I have to go to the online designer, and I'm going to show you how to use that, create prompts and add more images to jazz up your presentation. So let's get started. Now let's talk about jazzing up your presentation using generative AI images. So these are images created by AI. Because if you're looking at the presentation here, the one that PowerPoint created for us, you'll notice that it did not add images. Now, in some cases, I've asked it to create presentations and PowerPoint has gone out of its way to find images, but they have not been quality pictures. They've been some of the free stock images that are available from PowerPoint and some images from the web. So I have no idea where these images came from. Now, if you're a student, you don't really care about, and this is a school project, you really don't care where the images come from. But if you're a business and you're using this as a business presentation, then you need to be aware of copyrights and using images that you bought specifically for business use. So in this case, I have the option to put in literal images that I can either insert from PowerPoint, but these specific venues that I want to feature in my presentation, the Memorial Coliseum and the Staples Center from Los Angeles, I'm going to have to look for stock images because these are public buildings and I need to find images. So now I can go to the web and I can go to websites like Adobe Stock, which I do when I'm using presentations for my clients, but you're going to find it's going to be literal images here. It's not something that is stylized. I can also go to another account, Envato Elements, that I use. In some cases, I could go to iStock or Getty Images when I can't find the image I want. But in this case, we want to make it fun. So I'm going to go use Copilot and let Copilot create the image for me. Now to do that, there's two different locations. I can click here on Copilot, the interface that you've already seen, and I can go and look through one of these and ask it to create an image for me. You can see here, create realistic image of the flamingo. But this option here doesn't give me control on the prompts. And if you're new to this, it's going to be a little bit more complex. And that's why I say go use the designer, because you're going to have a little bit more control. Now, if you can't see the designer, once again, you'll find it when you click on your Microsoft account. Just click on designer. If you can't see it, click on more applications, and you're going to see a link here to designer. It's going to take you to this interface. Now, when you look at this interface, you're going to notice that at the top here, I can see my account. I'm logged in, and it's telling me that I have 96 boosts left. That's because I have the Pro account, and every day I get 100 new boosts that I can use for image generation. So if you have a free account, this is going to be 15 for you right now. Now, they could change that, but for now, that's what these numbers are. And when you take a closer look of what you can do, you can here create with AI. You can edit with AI. Now, with the edit, it allows you to edit the image that you have, remove background, restyle the image if you want to make it a little bit more cartoonish, add frames, or take out some people from the picture. So you have some photo editing tools here. And as you try to use this, it's going to ask you to upload the image and make edits to it. And it's going to ask you to make sure that you have the copyright on this image. So you cannot go get images from the web that you haven't bought and edit. So keep that in mind. You might still have to go buy images and then edit them yourself. But in this case, I want to show you how to create designs, and there's two different different ways. You can create from scratch. Now, if you say create from scratch, then you can specify the size and then you can start creating. But if you don't care about the size right now, you just want to get that design process, I would recommend you start with Create with AI. Now, when you click on Create with AI, you get to decide what are you creating. Are you creating an icon? Are you creating a sticker? Are you creating an image or a background or something for a coloring book? In this particular case, really we're concerned with images because I'm going to be creating images for my presentation. So I invite you to go in there and start experimenting so you can see how you're going to use it. But in my case, I want to create images for my presentation and I want to give it that pop art look, which is kind of this one here. And I want to use it for the presentation to create the two venues, the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum and the Staples Centers. So what I did is I have already done this so that you don't have to go through all of this. And I clicked on Edit Prompt. So you get to here, go through the styles, see which one resonates with your kind of presentation. In my case, that's the style I want to give it. And I clicked on Edit Prompt. Now I have different ways to edit the prompt. I can keep the boxes and just change the words. But if you wanted to make major changes to this prompt, I would recommend click here on Edit Entire Prompt, and now you have a little bit more flexibility, and now you can change what exactly you want. Now what I'm concerned with is I wanted to let it know it's a pop art illustration and these are the colors that I want to use. So I'm going to show you some of the images that I've already created and what they look like. So I'm going to click here on My Creations. So you'll notice with My Creations, I've already went ahead and used that same prompt and I've asked it to create images for the Staples Center. Notice every time you ask, it's going to give you 4 images. And now I can decide which one I want to use and add to my presentation. And the same thing I did, I asked it to create one for the Memorial Coliseum as well in LA. So now I can take these images and add them to my PowerPoint and they're going to be something unique, something that nobody else has because I picked the styles, I picked the colors, and I can add them to my presentation. Now, if I want to download this image and add it to PowerPoint, all I have to do is click download. So I'm going to say download. I do like this one. And then I'm going to go in here in the Staples Center. I do like this one more. So I'm going to click here on download. And now because I've downloaded them, I can go back to my PowerPoint and now I can decide if I want to keep this as one slide or if I want to divide it. Where was it? The venue. Staples Center here and the Memorial Coliseum. So if I want to add an image here, now all I can do is use my theme because I already have a theme and I can go decide which one do I want. So in this case, I'm going to pick this one here. So you can see I've got the text. I can make some changes. I'm not sure why the formatting is off. I do find that when I do involve AI, some of the things might change. So that's why in this particular case, I might just have to go and say new slide and now add the text. So keep that in mind. It's been a hit and miss. And now I can go and get the images and put them here. So I'm going to get this here from my file, the designer. I'm going to click and drag. And notice how now the picture would look here in the Staples Center. So now for this case, which is not resetting, and this happens a lot when you're using Copilot or you're using Designer. If you find it stuck and it's messing up your file, then unfortunately, that's the only way. We can go in here and just add it. And I'm going to go get this text. Because when I'm clicking on reset, it's not working. I'm actually glad it happened so you can see it does happen. And I'm going to say paste match formatting. So now I've got a bigger text here. I've got the Staples Center and I've got a custom image that no one else has picked, of course, unless they go use the exact same prompt and the AI does that for them. And then I can click here because I've got a properly set up theme and template and I can readjust it to fit wherever I want. Now, I did go ahead and create some extra images related to the presentation about construction, about traffic, as well as other locations in LA. And I want to show you how that showed up on my presentation. So you can see here now I've got a cover image, which I replaced in my theme. I still have my logo, my fonts, and my colors. And I have a great cover image that matches the topic. And I cleaned out some of the slides, just made the font slightly bigger. We don't need an image on everything. Of course, I did not check the text. We're still using the text from Copilot and the suggestion it gave us, but I wanted to show you how that could all be a starting point when it comes to the strategy and content with Copilot. And now you can see here with the images, I've got something about traffic, I've got something about transportation, I've got something about construction, and all of the images look consistent and they have that brand consistency with the same colors that are similar to my brand, and the images are all going to be very unique to my particular content. So using the Copilot and the designer, I was able to create faster presentations. And now you can see here as well, there's an extra layer. If you wanted to make some extra edits, you can click on the images. And for example, if you wanted to crop out the background and you don't like something with a particular image, you can click on the edit, and now you're going to find that you have an extra layer of editability and features that you can try out. So I'm not going to go through all of the features here, especially because Microsoft is improving them, but I highly recommend you test them out because you're going to find something with the visuals. You have shapes that you can experiment with, organic shapes as well, illustrations. You can mix and match with some of the stock images as well. So this is going to give you an extra layer of creativity where you can edit the images before you bring them into PowerPoint. But otherwise, for today, really what I wanted to highlight was the Copilot, the designer, and the image designer that can help you create faster presentations. Congratulations, because now you know more about Microsoft Copilot and the AI designer and how you can use them to create faster presentations. Please share this video with your teams and networks that you collaborate with, because it's going to make their life easier too. And if you need any personalized help, I'm here to support you. Check out some of the upcoming workshops or some of my presentation design services in the links below. Till next time, ciao for now.